Welcome to Eat Well, Travel Better, the Business of Food Travel podcast with your host, Eric Wolf. In the next 30 minutes, we will help you to become a better industry professional with inspiration from some of the world's most successful people in our food and beverage tourism industry. With each episode, you will meet these leaders and examine their secrets of success. You will hear about the obstacles and challenges they have faced, along with their solutions and triumphs, and be inspired with ideas for many of the same business issues that you may be facing as well. And now for today's episode. Welcome. I'm Eric Wolf, your host for episode 48 of Eat Well, Travel Better, the Business of Food Travel podcast. And joining us today is Tracy Stuckrath, who is an event planner, inclusion speaker, Mini Cooper driver, and lover of blueberries. After being diagnosed with a food allergy, she became passionate and committed to ensuring that everyone has something delicious, nutritious, and safe when they sit down at a dining table. She has never met a stranger. Welcome, Tracy. Tracy, I'm so excited that we get a chance to speak. You and I have chatted a couple times before already, and you're such a ball of energy. I'm so thrilled that you could join us today. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. I'm excited to be here too.
So, what does Thrive Meetings do?
So when I started it 11 years ago, I started it with a mission to make the world healthier every event at a time. And it was because I had been diagnosed with food allergies. And as an event planner, I couldn't eat at my own events. And I was doing about 100 a year. So I started it by educating and becoming a speaker and providing training classes to the meetings industry on how to feed me and the 32 million, 45 million other people around the world who have a different dietary need. So that has progressed over the last 11 years. And I'm still doing that. I also do event planning services, and I provide food and beverage management for other event planners and organizations that, they're trying to feed a couple thousand people, a couple hundred people, and all the dietary needs just drive them bonkers. So I help them manage food and beverage at their events.
Okay. So, did you just wake up one morning and said, this is a problem, or were you in some kind of situation that you had this kind of eureka moment?
Well, I had been sick for a while, and about 6 years after I got diagnosed with an allergy to yeast, I was attending a class in New York with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And I'm sitting in Lincoln Center on the top level, watching the speakers talk about everybody needs to be vegan, nobody needs to be vegan, and Ayurvedic, and there's 1,500 other people in the audience with me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one. And I did have that eureka moment. And I'm like, I'm an event planner. I can't eat at my events. So why don't I create a company that can educate the industry on what does vegan mean? What is a food allergy? What is celiac disease? And what is kosher and halal, so that we could learn how to better feed people at events.
Yeah, those are the big ones for sure. And it just seems like the incidence of special diets and dietary preferences is increasing, which is good because people can get what they want, they can get what they can eat. I mean, imagine wanting to eat kosher or halal all the time, but then you go to a conference and you don't know, and the server doesn't know, and then you're just left to bring the food that you brought, or eat the food that you brought yourself, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Mhm.
not fun.
It's not fun. And unfortunately, it is still a challenge, though, when you go to events, because, and especially now with after COVID and staffing challenges that restaurants and convention centers are having, what knowledge do those staff have of what they're serving is probably not as much as they had pre-COVID. Hopefully it would be more, but, they're struggling with getting staff. And a lot of restaurants and hotels and convention centers are also limiting what they're serving because of food shortages that we're
Mm.
seeing right now too. So, and sometimes they're being supplemented when they place an order. Their distributor is providing something as a substitute for it because they don't have it. So there's a lot more challenges right now. And I think we need to be a lot more diligent at it for the food service side.
Yeah. Well, I think it was always a serious issue that I don't think was ever given its due course. For example, we did an event in London, and I'm pretty vigilant about food safety and allergies and all of that. And we had asked all of our delegates about their food allergies and preferences. And the event that we did in London, I had never seen more food allergies in my life. And I don't know if that was because we were in London or because time had passed where everybody had an issue to bring up. But I said, the only way to handle this is if the hotel labels each dish.
Hmm.
And they put the name of the item there, but they didn't put the ingredients.
Hmm.
And so we made a special announcement before people went to have their meal. And we said, if there's something that you're not sure about, ask your server. And after the event, we were contacted by a delegate who had to leave because she is allergic to butter, of all things.
So
And she,
dairy. Yeah.
well, butter specifically, I don't know what, maybe there's a
Wow.
protein in butter, or I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But she got hives and had to leave, and I contacted the hotel catering department, and they went back to the server and they said, "Oh yes, the server remembers this person and said that there was butter in the dish." And the delegate is saying, well, she was told there wasn't butter in the dish. So where's the liability there? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just oral communication. It's a he said, she said, and what
Hmm.
happens then?
That's a big challenge. And in the EU, it's a little bit different because in 2014, the regulation EU 1169 came out, which is a higher level of food safety around food allergy labeling. And the restaurants and any food service provider actually should be providing the ingredients of the meals upon request and like the full ingredient list. And it unfortunately every country is a little bit different in how they do it.
Hmm.
And so it needs to be a lot more regulated in that sense. But it is a he said, she said at that moment. But, in the heat of an event, it is what did you hear because it's crowded around you and noisy. My big solution would actually be to provide an attendee, a meal card of some sort to say, hey, hand this to your server so they know who you are. And that's hopefully, the planner has given the dietary needs with the people's names on it before the event so that they're aware of what meals to give each person. And then she or he hands that card to the server, and the server can go back and get the dish that's made without the allergen that they have.
Yeah.
I think that is the biggest opportunity to help, reduce that he said, she said, and miscommunication.
Well, this happened to be around a buffet.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine if someone's leaning over the buffet, they're hungry, they'd like to help themselves, they're not sure. They ask
Right.
the server, oh yeah, it's fine. Uh,
Right. Mm-hmm.
so easy to, and what if she had died?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And well, in UK too, there is the Corporate Manslaughter and Homicide Act as well. If she's traveling on business and there's negligence or she gets harmed, the company that she works for is actually liable for that as well.
Wow.
And so, and I'm not an attorney, so you have to go look at that a little bit more in detail, but
Yeah.
that is another thing to take into consideration. But that's definitely something else to take into consideration. But if it is buffets, I definitely highly recommend that meeting planners have the conference centers and the hotels label it with the allergens, the top 14 allergens that the EU is requires to be regulated,
Hmm.
as well as any other allergens that people have. And even if it's a buffet, if that property cannot guarantee, nor do you want to eliminate butter from every single dish, make that person a personalized dish
Yeah.
so that there
Well,
is no confusion.
I was so concerned about this that I actually filmed the buffet. I did a video of the buffet and the placards at each station. This was before we knew anything was a problem, just so we had evidence of what was
Wow,
stated. Yeah. Yeah, because
that's
once
interesting.
once
Yeah.
those are, once it's thrown in the trash, it's gone. No one knows what was out there, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and you have no proof that anything was told or said. It's a hard situation.
It is a hard situation. And that's actually something interesting. I mean, I do a lot of picture taking of those buffets, including with the food and
Hmm.
what the label is. But really, if you're doing your due diligence, that's actually a great way to do it, because the other challenge with going to an event is who is making those labels. And a lot of times it's the front of the house staff who has actually no knowledge of how the dish was made.
That's right.
And depending on who is on duty that day, you know, are they first time employee or whatever, did they actually go back and check the allergen list of the attendees as well against what the recipes were made to
Hmm.
make sure those dishes are labeled correctly. And a lot of times they're doing them at the last minute. And so we want to make sure that we do our due diligence. And my recommendation as well on that is to make sure that it's already labeled on the banquet event order, which should go to the chef. And then the label should be made from the banquet event order so that
That's a
it's
great
clear.
tip. Absolutely, I agree with that. And I know that chefs are creative people, and sometimes, if you're out of an ingredient or something inspires you, let me just add a touch of mustard in that. Oh no, someone's got a mustard allergy, you've just killed them. You
Right.
can't diverge at all from the written recipe.
The written recipe, and that's for sure. So there's two stories I can relate to that. There was a caterer I heard a story about that actually the pastry chef changed the recipe for their signature dish to make it gluten free, and just for this one event, and which is all fine and good because they had somebody that was really allergic to gluten or to wheat. But when she did it, she used nut flour
Hmm.
in that recipe to change it. Well, they had somebody with a severe nut allergy, and that pastry chef, he or she, did not communicate to anyone that she used nut flours. And so the person with the nut allergy ended up in the emergency room.
Wow.
And I mean, that just really can't happen. And even personally, I was in an event in 2020 just before the pandemic hit, and I was drinking something, a green drink, and it said kale and something else, and it was, oh, this is great. Well, I drank it, and it tasted very pineapple-y, and there was no pineapple listed on that buffet menu. And I got up and I went and looked at it again, and my throat started to get scratchy and sore. And I'm like, okay, it's not listed there. Maybe, I probably should have stopped drinking it at that point, but I took another sip just to taste. Again, I tasted it. I went back, and the server, bless her heart, had gone back to watch the chef make a new batch. And so it was a new batch of this drink. And she wrote down every single ingredient she watched the chef put into the dish or into the drink. And he was putting pineapple. Come to find out after the fact is that they had two recipes with the exact same name, and the chefs changed in the middle of that breakfast
Oh.
buffet shift, and one chef started making a different dish.
Wow, that is talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time and one in a
Right.
million chances.
Right, exactly. And it's just so it's and I don't want to bash. I mean, things happen,
Yeah.
but we have to do our due diligence, especially when it's been communicated, that somebody has an allergy to certain things. The food safety or food service providers, they have a duty of care to provide, safe food, and none of them are going to be a completely allergen free environment or a completely gluten free environment, but you still have a duty of care to use clean dishes and saute pans and things like that when you're making those dishes, if you are aware that there is an allergen.
So you were talking about making dishes and things like this, and you got me thinking about the use of plastic ramekins and how that drives me crazy. I just, why? It goes into the dishwasher with soap and hot water and steam.
Mhm.
It gets sanitized. Why do we have plastic ramekins in the world? I don't get it.
I don't know. And because of COVID, more and more people are using those.
Why?
And sustainability wise, it is better to use the ceramic ramekins and wash them. But I think part of it too is the staffing issue that we have right now. And they don't have enough people wanting to wash dishes, to clear all that stuff. So it is part of it is that,
Hmm.
but part of it is I don't know. You're right. They get washed, so there is no, you know, kind of contamination at all.
So you heard my big pet peeve. What's your big pet peeve? You must have one in
Oh,
business or life.
but when we go to the grocery store, and you put your basket back into that thing out in the middle of the parking lot, right?
Mhm.
And they just leave them in the middle of the road, or they don't. And I go and align them all. I actually put them in place, push them all in, and I rearrange them and make the small ones go on this side and the big ones go on this side. It drives my mom batty because I'm like, I want to make it easier for everybody else, but I also don't want, a hazard to be happening out in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
So,
That goes back to we did a Food Travel Talk TV episode about respect. And
mhm.
I think when people are just leaving their cart anywhere, it's a total lack of respect for your fellow human beings. I mean, that cart is going to go off on its own. It's going to hit someone's car. It's going to dent their car,
Yep.
scratch it, and that's all because you were lazy. You could have walked 20 feet and put that into the collector, but no, you had to just because you are got things to do.
And even if you walked it to the collector to put it in, just push it into the next one in front of it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's not that hard. I think Lidl, and I never shopped actually at a Lidl, and I went last month, and you actually need to put a quarter in to get the shopping cart, and to get your quarter back, you actually have to push it back in and rekey it in to get your quarter back. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
They do that a lot in here in Europe. They
Oh,
do
do
that all
they?
the time. Yeah, you've got to put a euro coin in. And I actually got so mad because once I only had a 2 euro coin, which is, it's like $2.50. So I used it, had the cart, and I forgot the coin. I put the cart back, but I forgot to get the coin, and I was driving
Mhm.
away and I thought, well, that's gone. And I thought I will never, ever, ever do this again. I was so mad. I lost my $2.50 coin. So, who inspires you, Tracy?
Well, there's a variety of different people in a variety of different areas. I mean, I really right now, and this is actually from my podcast from last week, is my friend Judith Winfrey, and she and her husband Joe are farmers, and they are changing their farm to be a cooperative farm. They're outside of Atlanta, and they're helping. They have partnered with some other farmers to build this larger farm that actually will be in posterity always a farm. It cannot be converted to anything else because of a grant. And just their commitment to farming and good natural foods,
Hmm.
and feeding community. And they're both people that I admire a lot right now. Another person that I really, really admire, and I'm going to look at her name so I can say it right, Eric. Okay.
Okay.
Sabrina Falkir Montgrain. And she is a doctor in San Diego. And she just went through an entire program about food as medicine.
Hmm.
And so she's a general practitioner internist who is really working with her patients to help them think differently about their health with the food that they're eating. And so instead of just, hey, here's some medicine, go figure it out on your own, let this medicine solve you, fix you, she's actually working with them and with community groups to educate people on how to use food as medicine to cure our ailments.
Interesting. So this food is medicine. Did she do any coursework at the National University for Natural Medicine in Portland, Oregon?
I don't know where she did her coursework. I'd have to
Okay.
ask her.
The reason
Yeah.
I ask is because they have a food as medicine conference that we used to be partners with them when I lived in
Oh,
Portland,
really?
and we would participate in their conference, and it's a fascinating school. It used to be called the National College for Natural Medicine, NCNM, and I still want to call it that, but then they changed to university so they could do all these other things because you have the university name. Okay, fine. Everything they were doing was looking at food as literally food as medicine, food as health, what we're eating,
Mm-hmm.
how, the idea that eating gluten can cause leaky gut and then what happens from that. And these are the things that they look at, and trying to treat people without using pharmaceuticals
Mhm.
and invasive therapies and surgeries, rather than trying to heal the body from within and heal the body with the things that we were given when we were born. And it just made so much sense. And they are one of the best respected schools for this study in the United States.
That's amazing. I'm actually headed to San Antonio tomorrow to attend La Dames de Escoffier, which is a women's organization, philanthropic organization for women in the food and beverage and hospitality industry.
Hmm.
And one segment that session I'm taking is called Food as Medicine. And Sabrina's not teaching that course, but there's four other women, dietitians, restaurateurs that are in that. And one chef in San Antonio has a restaurant called Farm Table, PHARM. So
Okay.
using the food as the medicine and teaching people and educating them on how to do that. But with FODMAP and keto and gluten free and celiac disease and fibromyalgia, I mean, you can
Hmm.
minimize some of your reactions or things with the food that you're eating. And it's really going to be interesting to listen to the four women.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I'm on their website now. It's nunm.edu. And some of the programs are naturopathic medicine, acupuncture with a Chinese herbal medicine specialization, integrative medicine research. Oh, and I should actually say this. I'm not trying to turn this into an advertisement for them, but the people who go through their program are actually doctors. They have proper traditional medical training, and so they get how pharmaceuticals affect the body, and they have their studies in chemistry and biology, and they understand all of that. So it's not like they're woo woo people out there. Oh, I'm gonna put this acupuncture needle into you and you're gonna be all better. They understand everything, and they will be the first person to say, you know what, I think your situation is so serious, naturopathy can't help you and you need
Mm-hmm.
pharmaceutical. Yeah, they will tell you that. So they have both experiences, and it's fantastic.
Well, and to me, that's the thing. I mean, is because there is traditional medical, I guess you could call it Western medicine, that you need to use, but also Eastern medicine and naturopathic medicine can also help. So I want to find the middle ground in that, and having doctors, you know, and MDs as well as whatever naturopathic certification is, work together to diagnose people and help solve problems, because it doesn't necessarily all have to be here's another drug. And actually, I was talking to somebody the other day. They're like, oh, well, they're taking this drug for this, but it's causing this. So they're going to give them another drug.
Yeah.
No, let's
Wrong
not do
answer.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you
How can
read,
we use food to do that?
absolutely. Have you read anything by Dr. Josh Axe?
Not in length. No.
Okay. He's someone who I follow. I think he's really quite interesting. He also has some YouTube videos out there as well. And I've learned some of my behaviors from some of the things that he's taught. And it might be an interesting resource for people in your network, but also some of our listeners.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Tracy, when travel starts to resume, do you have any places that are on your bucket list that you'd like to go to next for food and drink?
I definitely want to go to Sweden.
Sweden.
There was a conference that I was going to go to, but scheduling didn't work out. But the food world up there sounds so phenomenal, and I've got a couple of connections that I have that own conference centers up there, and she's definitely a farm to table restaurant and hotel and restaurant. But I definitely want to explore, in that realm of the world as well. And I've been to five of the seven continents. So I still need to get to Australia and Antarctica. So I definitely want to try to reach those as well.
Well, you have just chosen a very interesting country from a case study perspective. Sweden has done a lot in the past 10 or so years to really drive forward awareness of Swedish food culture, Swedish ingredients. And in fact, there was a program back in 2013, I think it was, Sweden, the new culinary nation, and unfortunately, that program was defunded when the government changed. But it's still been something that's been talked about in the Swedish government circles, and now they're starting to do more with it. And so, Visit Sweden, if you go to the Visit Sweden website and you
Huh?
click on what to do, and then you can choose eat and drink from there. And this is a new page that they've just recently relaunched on their website, and they've done a great job of it. And it talks a lot about the Swedish food culture. But I think what makes this double more interesting is the conversation we just had about food health and food
Uh-huh.
safety and ingredients and so on. Sweden is a country like Denmark, where I lived, and Finland and Norway and Germany. They're very concerned about food health, food allergies, food purity. So you'll find a huge emphasis on organics there, on eating healthy, on really questioning what is in the food. People there, I would say, are used to reading labels and questioning
Hmm.
things that don't suit them. And in fact, maybe it's a bit of a premonition that the Nordic countries have now all grouped together and said that they're not going to allow the Moderna vaccine because of
Oh,
the
wow.
issues with the heart inflammation. So once again, Scandinavia is leading the way, but they've done this in their food and drink as well. Healthy eating, pure eating, and I think that you're going to find a very, very interesting experience in Sweden.
All right, awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. And I actually found out one of my sorority sisters lives there too. So
Oh,
I
okay.
can visit two people.
Wow. Well, we did our 2013 World Summit there in Gothenburg, which is a fantastic city. It reminded me a lot of Portland, kind of,
Okay.
um, second tier. There's always a big city. So for Portland, it was always
Right.
Seattle in the background.
Mhm.
For Gothenburg, it's always Stockholm. But it's a really beautiful city. The food was great. You have to have the open-faced. Do you eat shrimp?
Yes.
Okay, you have to have the open-faced shrimp sandwich, but if you have allergies, of course, you're gonna have to tell them what it is. But what they do with it, they do a open, the open-faced bread, and they'll put a little bit of butter or mayonnaise, depending on who's making it, lettuce, and then a mound of small shrimps. And the shrimp is not fishy at all, and it's just fantastic. And then they give you a huge wedge of lemon to put on it too.
Wow.
And that is just something that you can find all throughout Sweden. But in Gothenburg, I think the place was called Heaven 17, if I'm not
Uh-huh.
mistaken, Heaven something, and it was on the top of a hotel or convention center. But oh my gosh, it was amazing, just so nice. Oh, yummy!
That
I
sounds
memories,
delicious.
yeah. Yeah, and well, thanks to IKEA for helping to
I was
acculturate
just going to bring that
consumers.
up.
Have you bought some food at IKEA?
Not in a long time. The closest IKEA to me now is like 4 hours away
Okay, that's a bit
in
of a trek.
Charlotte. But when it, I remember when it first opened right outside of Washington, D.C., my mom and I drove like 2.5 hours to go to IKEA.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know that that drives a lot of Swedes crazy that the ambassador for Swedish food is a huge multinational corporation selling furniture. It just doesn't quite connect.
Yeah. For some reason I remember like the meatballs that they sell and
Yeah.
and crackers and things like that. But it's in the United States in quite a few cities now. So
Well, I think, in the water always rushes in to fill any opening. And I think in the absence of anyone or any organization or the Swedish government stepping in to do this, IKEA did. And
mhm.
you can't fault them for getting an opportunity. And everybody loves food and drink. So if the cafe, the Swedish coffee, or the cinnamon rolls are getting them into the store, you can't blame them. It's smart
Right.
business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, Tracy, I would love to meet you in person. I hope we get that chance someday.
Oh, I do too, Eric. We'll just have to jump on a plane and come over there. We got to look at all of our different parameters going
Well,
forward
maybe
right
we'll
now.
be
But
at
yeah.
a conference together and we could talk about food allergies and find faults in the catering there at the convention center or hotel.
People
Uh,
are always like, "Oh my God, Tracy's here. What are they doing wrong?
I get
What?"
that
You know, I'm like,
too.
"What are they doing right? Let's
I get that
showcase
too.
that."
Yeah, but
Mhm.
it's not about food allergies when I'm invited. It's like, oh my God, the food guy is here. We can't disappoint. And it is what it is. It's all good, right?
It is, but it's It is, but I mean, it's experiencing the food wherever you are, and but also knowing, providing a safe environment. And I think all of those meld together, the culture of where you are, the safety, the sustainability aspects that we talked about a little bit as well. I mean, how can we all meld that together? Because we need to sit down at a table and break bread with each other and build relationships, and business or personal, and just really enjoy that food experience. And for some reason, that movie with was it Helen Mirren, and they family bought the Indian family bought a house out in the middle of Italy or somewhere, and they
Oh,
competed.
this
Oh,
wasn't
I just went
was it
blurry.
the Marigold Hotel? Was that?
No, not that
Okay.
one. I went. And it's this young chef, the kid from forget it. I'm not even going to come up with it. But it was about the sensuality of food, and he had risen up to become a Michelin star chef, and then he comes back and he helps run his parents' Indian restaurant. But then this Helen Mirren hires him across the street to get her second star. Um,
Oh, okay. That sounds like a good
yeah,
movie. All
it
right.
was a very good movie. I'll have to look that movie up.
Yeah. Well, it sounds
Um,
fun. Well, Tracy, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today and share your insights on food and healthy eating and naturopathy and the meetings industry. It's really interesting. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Eric. And I love what you do. And you've got to be on my show coming up, talking about food travels, and what that means, and how meeting planners can really think differently when they travel. So I really appreciate what you're doing out there, and to promote culinary tourism.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It's a pleasure. Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening today. The Eat Well, Travel Better podcast is brought to you by the World Food Travel Association, the world's leading authority on food and beverage tourism. Our mission is to preserve and promote culinary cultures through hospitality and tourism. By doing so, we empower local communities and entrepreneurs with the knowledge and tools needed to reach new food lovers and gain a competitive edge. Founded in 2003, now we shepherd an annual community of 200,000 professionals in more than 150 countries. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and you can learn more about us, subscribe to our newsletter, and join our family at worldfoodtravel.org. Until next time, eat well and travel better.